Chapter 1. The gathering at Caitlin's house. In the fading light of the previous chapter, Caitlin had stood at the threshold of her backyard, heart pounding with the thrill of anticipation. She had just received a text from Brad, the only boy in their tight-knit group, confirming he would be joining them for the evening. The air had been thick with unspoken feelings, a tension that crackled like static electricity. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the grass, Caitlin felt the weight of the moment settle on her shoulders. Tonight was not just another gathering. It was a chance to explore the delicate threads of friendship and something more. The sun was setting, casting a warm golden glow over Caitlin's backyard, where a colorful picnic blanket was spread out like a patchwork quilt of memories. The vibrant hues of red, blue, and yellow danced in the light, inviting her friends to settle in. Caitlin, with her curly hair bouncing as she moved, felt a flutter of excitement in her chest. She had spent the afternoon preparing for this gathering, arranging snacks and drinks, and ensuring everything was perfect. The scent of freshly cut grass mingled with the sweet aroma of lemonade, creating an inviting atmosphere that felt like a warm embrace. As her friends arrived, Caitlin's heart raced. Brad was the first to step through the gate, his easy smile lighting up the dimming evening. He wore a faded blue t-shirt that clung to his athletic frame, and his tousled hair caught the last rays of sunlight. "Hey, Caitlin, this place looks awesome," he said, his voice warm and familiar, yet laced with an undercurrent of something unspoken. "Thanks. I wanted it to be special," she replied, her cheeks warming slightly. She brushed a stray curl behind her ear, trying to quell the butterflies in her stomach. The twins, Mary-Kate and Ashley, arrived next, their laughter ringing out like music. They were a whirlwind of energy, their matching outfits a playful nod to their bond. "Did you bring the snacks?" Mary-Kate asked, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "Of course. I've got chips, cookies, and even some gummy bears," Caitlin said, gesturing to the spread she had laid out. "Perfect. I'm starving," Ashley chimed in, plopping down onto the blanket and immediately reaching for the gummy bears. Paige and Liv followed closely behind, their chatter blending seamlessly with the laughter of the twins. Liv, with her bright smile and infectious energy, flopped down beside Caitlin. "This is going to be so much fun. I can't wait to crush you all at Mousetrap," she declared, her eyes glinting with competitive spirit. "Good luck with that," Brad teased, settling down on the opposite side of the blanket. "I'm the Mousetrap champion, remember." Caitlin felt a surge of warmth at the sight of her friends, their camaraderie wrapping around her like a cozy blanket. They settled into a comfortable rhythm, the sounds of laughter and playful banter filling the air. The game of Mousetrap began, and with each turn, the stakes felt higher, the laughter louder. "Okay, who's going to be the first mouse?" Caitlin asked, her voice light, but her heart raced as she caught Brad's eye. There was something electric in the air between them, a tension that made her pulse quicken. "I'll go," Liv exclaimed, her enthusiasm infectious. "I'm ready to outsmart all of you." As the game progressed, the atmosphere shifted subtly. The playful competition turned into a dance of strategy and deception, each player trying to outmaneuver the others. Caitlin found herself glancing at Brad more often than not, their eyes meeting in fleeting moments that sent shivers down her spine. "Caitlin, you're going to lose if you keep staring at Brad," Mary-Kate teased, her voice laced with laughter. Caitlin felt her cheeks flush. "I'm not staring," she protested, though the truth hung heavy in the air. "Sure you're not," Ashley chimed in, winking at her sister. The teasing only heightened the tension, and Caitlin's heart raced as she tried to focus on the game. But every time she rolled the dice, she felt Brad's gaze on her, a warmth that made her feel both exhilarated and vulnerable. As the game reached its climax, the laughter began to fade, replaced by a more serious undertone. Caitlin could sense the shift in energy, the playful banter giving way to something deeper. The stakes felt higher now, not just in the game, but in the unspoken feelings that lingered between them. "Okay, last round. Winner takes all," Brad declared, his voice steady, but Caitlin could see the flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. "Bring it on," Liv challenged, her competitive spirit igniting the group once more. As they played, Caitlin felt a knot forming in her stomach. The game was a distraction, a way to avoid the truth that hung in the air like a storm cloud. She could feel the weight of her feelings for Brad pressing down on her, and the laughter around her felt like a thin veil over the tension that simmered just beneath the surface. With each roll of the dice, Caitlin's heart raced faster. She could feel the moment approaching, the moment when everything would change. As she moved her piece closer to the trap, she caught Brad's eye again. This time, the look was different. More intense, more searching. "Caitlin," he started, but before he could finish, the trap was triggered, and the game pieces went flying. Laughter erupted, but Caitlin felt a pang of disappointment. The moment had slipped away, leaving her with a sense of longing that was almost palpable. "Looks like I win," Liv shouted, her victory overshadowing the tension that had just been building. "Congratulations, Liv, you're the mousetrap queen," Brad said, his smile genuine but his eyes still locked on Caitlin. As the laughter died down, Caitlin felt the weight of the moment pressing down on her. She could sense that something had shifted, that the playful atmosphere had given way to a deeper understanding. The air was thick with unspoken words, and Caitlin felt a surge of courage rising within her. "Brad, can we talk?" she asked, her voice steady despite the fluttering in her chest. He nodded, his expression serious as he stood up and followed her to the edge of the yard, away from the laughter and chaos of their friends. The golden light of the setting sun bathed them in warmth, but Caitlin felt a chill run down her spine as she turned to face him. "What's on your mind?" he asked, his voice low and inviting. Caitlin took a deep breath, her heart racing. I feel like there's something between us, and I don't want to ignore it anymore." Brad's eyes widened slightly, surprise flickering across his face. "You feel it too." Chapter 2. The game of mousetrap. As they settled around the game board, anticipation crackled in the air, a palpable energy that made Caitlin's heart race. She could almost taste the sweet lemonade they had sipped earlier, mingling with the scent of freshly cut grass. The game pieces clinked together, creating a symphony of fun that echoed the laughter of their earlier moments. "Okay, who's going first?" Caitlin asked, her voice bright with enthusiasm. "I'll go," Brad declared, his grin widening as he reached for the dice. "Prepare to be outsmarted, ladies." "Oh please, Brad," Mary-Kate shot back, rolling her eyes playfully. "You're going down faster than the cheese in this game." The group erupted in laughter, the competitive spirit igniting as they took their turns. Brad rolled the dice with a flourish, his eyes sparkling with mischief. He moved his piece strategically, landing on a space that allowed him to set a trap. "Watch and learn, everyone," he said, his tone dripping with mock seriousness. "This is how you play the game." Caitlin leaned forward, her heart racing with excitement. She loved how Brad could turn even the simplest of games into a thrilling contest. The way he leaned over the board, his brow furrowed in concentration, made her stomach flutter. She shook her head, trying to dispel the thoughts that crept in uninvited. "Just don't get too cocky," Ashley chimed in, her voice teasing yet firm. "You might end up in the trap yourself." "Yeah, right," Brad laughed, tossing his hair back. "I'm the master of this game. You all should be taking notes." As the game progressed, the playful banter escalated. Each turn was met with cheers and groans, the tension building with every roll of the dice. Caitlin felt the thrill of competition surge through her veins, but beneath it all, a different kind of tension simmered. one that had nothing to do with the game itself. She caught Brad's eye across the board, and for a fleeting moment, the world around them faded. His gaze held hers, a spark of something unspoken passing between them. Caitlin's heart raced, and she quickly looked away, focusing on the game. "Caitlin, it is your turn." Liv's voice broke through her thoughts, pulling her back to the present. "Right, sorry." Caitlin laughed nervously, shaking her head as she grabbed the dice. She rolled, her heart pounding as she moved her piece. The game was a whirlwind of laughter and friendly jabs, but Caitlin couldn't shake the feeling that something deeper was brewing beneath the surface. As the game continued, Brad's strategy began to unfold. He set traps with precision, his confidence growing with each successful move. The others were quick to retaliate, but Caitlin couldn't help but admire his cleverness. "Brad, you're like a cat with a laser pointer," Paige teased, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "You're just leading us all into your trap." "Exactly," Brad replied, puffing out his chest in mock pride. "And you're all just the mice." The laughter that followed was infectious, but Caitlin felt a knot tightening in her stomach. The playful competition was fun, but the way Brad commanded attention made her feel both exhilarated and anxious. As the game neared its climax, the atmosphere shifted. The stakes felt higher, the teasing more intense. Caitlin could sense the tension building, not just in the game but among her friends. The playful banter had taken on an edge, and she could see the competitive fire in everyone's eyes. Okay, let's make this interesting," Mary-Kate suggested, her voice low and conspiratorial. "Loser has to do a dare." "Dare," Ashley echoed, her eyes lighting up with excitement. "I'm in." Caitlin hesitated, glancing at Brad. "What kind of dare?" "Something embarrassing, of course," Mary-Kate said, her grin widening. "Like singing a song in front of everyone or doing a silly dance." "Count me out," Caitlin said quickly, her heart racing at the thought. The idea of being the center of attention in such a way made her stomach churn. "Come on, Caitlin, it'll be fun," Liv urged, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "Yeah, don't be a chicken," Brad added, leaning closer, his voice teasing yet encouraging. Caitlin felt her cheeks flush as she met his gaze. "Fine, but only if I lose." "Deal," Brad said, his grin widening. With the stakes raised, the game took on a new intensity. Each roll of the dice felt like a heartbeat, the tension palpable as they moved their pieces around the board. Caitlin's heart raced with every turn, the playful banter now laced with an undercurrent of competition that made her pulse quicken. As the final rounds approached, Caitlin found herself in a precarious position. She was one move away from losing, and the pressure mounted. The others were on the edge of their seats, their eyes glued to the board, and Caitlin could feel the weight of their expectations. "Come on, Caitlin, you can do it," Liv cheered, her voice ringing with encouragement. Caitlin took a deep breath, her fingers trembling as she reached for the dice. She rolled, and the world seemed to slow down as she watched the numbers tumble across the board. "Please, please, please," she whispered under her breath. The dice landed, and she felt a rush of hope. But as she moved her piece, the realization hit her like a cold wave. She had landed in the trap. "No," she exclaimed, her voice a mix of disbelief and laughter. The others erupted into cheers, their laughter ringing in her ears. Brad leaned back, a triumphant grin plastered across his face. "Looks like you're the loser, Caitlin." "Ah, I can't believe this," she groaned, her heart racing with a mix of embarrassment and exhilaration. "Time for your dare," Mary-Kate said, her eyes sparkling with mischief. Chapter 3 Transition to Slapjack. "Okay, who's ready for Slapjack?" Caitlin announced, her eyes sparkling with mischief. The prospect of a game that demanded quick reflexes and sharper eyes sent a thrill through the group. The twins, Mary-Kate and Ashley, exchanged excited glances, while Paige bounced on her heels, her enthusiasm infectious. Liv, always the joker, pretended to stretch her arms dramatically, as if preparing for an Olympic event. "I'm going to crush you all," Brad declared, his voice laced with playful bravado. He shuffled the deck of cards with a flourish, the sound of the slick paper against itself creating a rhythm that matched the pulse of their excitement. "Yeah, right, you just want to impress Caitlin," Ashley teased, nudging her sister with a conspiratorial grin. Caitlin felt her cheeks warm, but she quickly masked it with a laugh, brushing off the comment. "Impress me, please, I'm just here for the snacks," Caitlin shot back, reaching for a handful of popcorn from the bowl they had set out earlier. The buttery scent wafted through the air, mingling with the sweet smell of the fading day. As they settled around the blanket, the atmosphere shifted, charged with a competitive spirit that was both exhilarating and slightly nerve-wracking. The rules were simple. Slap the card when a jack appeared, but the stakes felt higher with each round. Caitlin could feel the tension building, a mix of excitement and the unspoken challenge that hung in the air. "Ready. 1, 2, 3, Brad shouted, flipping the first card with a dramatic flair. The card landed face up, revealing a 7 of hearts. A collective sigh of relief echoed around the blanket, followed by a chorus of laughter. "Not a jack. You're safe for now," Liv exclaimed, her voice teasingly high-pitched. The game continued, cards flying across the blanket like confetti, laughter erupting every time someone missed a slap. Caitlin's heart raced as she focused intently, her eyes darting between the cards and her friends' faces. The sound of slapping hands and playful shouts filled the air, creating a symphony of chaos that was both thrilling and comforting. "Come on, Brad, you can't let the girls win," Paige shouted, her eyes gleaming with mischief. "Watch and learn, ladies," Brad replied, his tone mock serious as he flipped the next card. A jack. In an instant, Caitlin's hand shot out, but she was a moment too late. Brad's hand slapped down on the card with a triumphant grin. "Got it," he declared, his voice booming with excitement. "Cheater," Mary-Kate exclaimed, her laughter bubbling over. "You're just too fast for us. Or maybe you're just too slow." Brad shot back, his eyes sparkling with playful challenge. Caitlin couldn't help but admire the way he carried himself, his confidence radiating like the sun that was now dipping below the horizon. There was something magnetic about him, a blend of charm and competitiveness that made her heart flutter. She shook her head, trying to dispel the thoughts that crept in uninvited. This was just a game, after all. As the rounds progressed, the laughter grew louder, the stakes higher. Each slap of a hand against the cards felt like a small victory, a moment of triumph in the midst of friendly rivalry. But beneath the surface, Caitlin sensed an undercurrent of tension, a subtle shift in the dynamics of their group. The way Brad's gaze lingered on her a moment too long, the way she caught him smiling at her when he thought she wasn't looking, it all felt charged, electric. "Okay, next round," Caitlin announced, her voice cutting through the laughter. She shuffled the cards, her fingers dancing over the glossy surface, feeling the weight of the moment. "Let's see who really has the fastest reflexes." "Bring it on," Brad replied, leaning forward, his eyes locked onto the deck. The intensity in his gaze sent a shiver down Caitlin's spine, a mix of excitement and something deeper that she couldn't quite name. The next round began, and the cards flew across the blanket with a flurry of movement. Caitlin's heart raced as she focused, her senses heightened. The world around her faded, leaving only the cards and the laughter of her friends. She felt alive, caught in the thrill of the game, but also in the unspoken connection that seemed to grow between her and Brad. "Jack," Liv shouted, her hand shooting out, but Caitlin was quicker. She slapped the card just in time, her palm connecting with a satisfying thud. "Yes!" she exclaimed, a rush of triumph flooding through her. "Nice one," Caitlin. Mary Kate cheered, her excitement infectious. But as the game continued, Caitlin noticed something shifting in Brad. His laughter was still there, but there was a flicker of frustration in his eyes, a hint of something deeper that made her pause. Was he feeling the pressure of the game, or was it something more? "Hey, Brad, you okay?" Caitlin asked, her voice softer than she intended. The moment hung in the air, charged with unspoken words. "Yeah, just trying to keep up," he replied, a hint of vulnerability breaking through his confident facade. "You're all way too good at this." Caitlin smiled, but there was a weight in his words that lingered. "It's just a game," she said, trying to lighten the mood. "We're all friends here, right?" he said, but his gaze drifted away, lost in thought. Caitlin felt a pang of concern. She wanted to reach out, to bridge the gap that seemed to widen with each passing moment. The next round began, and the cards flew again, but this time, Caitlin couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The laughter felt a little too forced, the teasing a little too sharp. She caught Brad's eye, and for a fleeting moment, the world around them faded. There was a connection there, a spark that ignited something deep within her. "Jack!" Ashley shouted, her hand slapping down on the card, but Caitlin was quicker. She felt the rush of adrenaline as she claimed her victory, but the moment was bittersweet. "Nice job, Caitlin," Liv cheered. Chapter 4 The hide-and-seek challenge. After a raucous round of slapjack, where cards flew and laughter echoed, Caitlin's mind buzzed with the energy of the day. "How about a classic game of hide-and-seek?" she suggested, her eyes sparkling with mischief. The idea hung in the air for a moment before being met with a chorus of enthusiastic agreement. "Count me in," Brad exclaimed, a grin spreading across his face. "Me too. I'm the best hider," Mary Kate chimed in, nudging Ashley playfully. "Just don't hide in the same spot as me," Ashley shot back, her voice teasing. Caitlin clapped her hands, the sound sharp against the backdrop of chirping crickets. "Okay, Brad, you're the seeker. We'll hide, and you count to 20. Ready?" As Brad turned his back to the group, the girls erupted into giggles, their excitement palpable. Caitlin felt a rush of adrenaline as she darted toward the towering oak tree at the edge of the yard, its gnarled branches offering a perfect hiding spot. She crouched behind the thick trunk, her heart racing as she listened to Brad's voice counting steadily, each number echoing in her ears like a countdown to an adventure. 10, 11, 12. The thrill of the chase filled the air, and Caitlin could hear the rustle of her friends as they scrambled to find their own hiding places. Paige giggled as she ducked behind the garden shed, while Liv squeezed herself into the narrow space between the fence and a row of sunflowers, their vibrant yellow petals swaying gently in the evening breeze. 17, 18, 19, 20. "Ready or not, here I come." Brad's voice rang out, a mix of determination and playful challenge. Caitlin stifled a laugh, her heart pounding as she peered around the tree. She could see Brad's silhouette moving through the yard, his brow furrowed in concentration. The way he moved, with a blend of confidence and boyish charm, made her stomach flutter. She shook her head, trying to dispel the thought. This was just a game, after all. Brad began his search, his footsteps crunching on the grass. "I know you're out there, girls," he called, a teasing lilt in his voice. "You can't hide forever." Caitlin held her breath, her pulse quickening as she watched him approach the shed. She could see the determination in his eyes, the way he scanned the area with a keen gaze. The thrill of the game heightened her senses. The smell of freshly cut grass mingled with the sweet scent of blooming flowers, creating a heady mix that filled her lungs. "Paige, I can see you," Brad shouted suddenly, pointing toward the shed. Caitlin stifled a giggle as Paige squeaked and darted out, her laughter ringing through the air. Okay, you got me," she admitted, her cheeks flushed with excitement. Brad grinned, his eyes sparkling with triumph. 1 down, 4 to go. He turned back toward the yard, his focus shifting as he continued his search. Caitlin felt a rush of exhilaration as she watched him, her heart racing not just from the game, but from the way he seemed to light up in the fading sunlight. "Where are you hiding, Liv?" he called, his voice teasing. "I can smell your sunscreen from a mile away." Caitlin couldn't help but laugh at the playful banter. The tension of the game mixed with the warmth of friendship created a bubble of joy that enveloped her. She felt a sense of camaraderie with her friends, a bond that was both comforting and exhilarating. As Brad moved closer to her hiding spot, Caitlin's heart raced. She pressed herself against the rough bark of the tree, her breath coming in quick bursts. She could see him now, just a few feet away, his brow furrowed in concentration. The way he moved, so intent on finding the others, made her want to call out, to break the silence and join in the fun. But she held back, wanting to savor the moment a little longer. "Caitlin," he called suddenly, his voice teasing. "I know you're around here somewhere." Her heart skipped a beat. Had he really seen her? She held her breath, her mind racing. Should she stay hidden or make a run for it? The thrill of being found was almost as enticing as the thrill of hiding. Okay, you got me," she finally called out, stepping out from behind the tree with a laugh. Brad turned, his eyes widening in surprise. "I knew it," he exclaimed, a triumphant grin spreading across his face. "You're the worst at hiding." Caitlin rolled her eyes, her cheeks flushed with embarrassment and excitement. "I was just waiting for the perfect moment." "Sure you were," he teased, stepping closer. The air between them crackled with an unspoken tension, and Caitlin felt her heart flutter again. "Now it is just you, Ashley and Liv left," Brad said, glancing around the yard. "Let's see if we can find them together." The two of them began to search, moving through the yard side by side. Caitlin felt a warmth spread through her as they worked together, their laughter mingling with the sounds of the evening. The sun dipped lower, casting a golden hue over everything, and for a moment, it felt like the world had shrunk to just the two of them. "Do you think they're hiding together?" Caitlin asked, glancing at him. "Probably," Brad replied, a playful smirk on his lips. "They're always scheming." As they approached the sunflowers, Caitlin caught a glimpse of Liv's bright yellow shirt peeking out from behind the tall blooms. "There!" she exclaimed, pointing. Brad grinned, his eyes sparkling with mischief. "Gotcha!" he shouted, lunging toward the flowers. Liv squealed, bursting out from her hiding spot, her laughter ringing through the air. Okay, you found me," she said, her cheeks flushed with excitement. "Now it is just Ashley left," Caitlin said, glancing around. The thrill of the game was palpable, and she felt a rush of adrenaline as they continued their search. "Where could she be?" Brad mused, scratching his head. "She's usually the best at hiding." Chapter 5. The search for Brad. Caitlin stood in the center of the yard, her curly hair catching the last rays of sunlight, casting a halo around her head. She squinted into the shadows, her heart racing with a mix of concern and confusion. "He's just hiding too well," she reassured herself, though the knot in her stomach tightened. "He'll pop out any second." Mary-Kate and Ashley, the twins, exchanged worried glances. "Maybe we should start looking for him," Ashley suggested, her voice barely above a whisper. The playful banter that had filled the air just moments ago had evaporated, replaced by a palpable tension. "Yeah, he's probably just messing with us," Paige chimed in, though her tone lacked the confidence she tried to project. "He wouldn't actually leave, right?" Liv, who had been leaning against the porch railing, crossed her arms and frowned. "I don't know, guys. It's been a while. What if he got stuck somewhere?" The thought hung in the air, heavy and unwelcome. Caitlin shook her head, trying to dispel the worry that threatened to consume her. Let's just check the usual spots first. He's probably just trying to scare us. She took a deep breath, forcing a smile. Come on, let's split up. The girls nodded, and with a shared sense of determination, they began their search. Caitlin headed toward the shed at the back of the yard, its wooden doors slightly ajar. The scent of freshly cut grass mingled with the earthy aroma of the garden, but it did little to calm her nerves. She pushed the door open, the creaking sound echoing in the stillness. "Brad," she called, her voice wavering slightly. "Are you in here?" Silence answered her, and she stepped inside, the dim light revealing a jumble of gardening tools and old paint cans. She peered behind a stack of boxes, her heart racing. "Come on, Brad, this isn't funny anymore." Meanwhile, Mary-Kate and Ashley had ventured into the house, their footsteps echoing on the wooden floors. "He could be hiding under the beds," Mary-Kate suggested, her voice tinged with anxiety. They crouched down, peeking beneath the beds in the guest room, but found only dust bunnies and forgotten toys. "Not here," Ashley said, biting her lip. "What if he really is lost?" "Stop it," Mary-Kate snapped, her frustration bubbling over. "He's just playing a prank. He'll show up." In the living room, Paige and Liv were checking behind the curtains, pulling them aside with exaggerated movements. "Brad," Liv called out, her voice a mix of annoyance and worry. "You can't hide forever." Paige rolled her eyes. "He's probably just trying to impress Caitlin. You know how he is." "Impress her," Liv scoffed. "He's going to give us all a heart attack first." As the minutes dragged on, the playful energy of the afternoon faded, replaced by a growing sense of dread. Caitlin returned to the yard, her heart pounding. "Guys, we need to find him. This isn't like him. Maybe he went to the park," Ashley suggested, her voice trembling slightly. "He loves that place. Or maybe he just got bored and left," Mary-Kate added, her tone sharper than intended. "He's always been the one to wander off." Caitlin felt a pang of hurt at the thought. "He wouldn't just leave us. He wouldn't do that." The words felt like a plea, a desperate attempt to hold on to the hope that Brad was just playing a prank. "Let's check the park," Paige said, her voice steadying. "It's not far. We can walk there in a few minutes." Caitlin nodded, her resolve hardening. "Okay, let's go." The group moved as one, their footsteps quickening as they made their way down the familiar path to the park. The air was cooler now, the evening breeze rustling the leaves overhead, but Caitlin barely noticed. Her mind was racing with thoughts of Brad. His laughter, his teasing, the way he always seemed to know how to make her smile. As they approached the park, the shadows lengthened, and the distant sound of laughter echoed through the trees. Caitlin's heart leapt. "Maybe he's with someone else," she suggested, her voice filled with hope. But as they entered the park, the laughter faded, replaced by an unsettling silence. The swings creaked gently in the breeze, and the slide stood empty, a stark contrast to the vibrant energy of the afternoon. Caitlin's heart sank. "Brad," she called out, her voice trembling. "Maybe he went to the other side," Liv suggested, pointing toward the far end of the park where the trees thickened. "Let's check there." They moved cautiously, the crunch of gravel beneath their feet the only sound breaking the stillness. Caitlin's mind raced with possibilities. What if something had happened? What if he was hurt? The thought sent a chill down her spine. As they reached the edge of the trees, Caitlin spotted a flash of movement. "Brad," she called again, her voice rising with urgency. The girls turned, their eyes wide with anticipation. But it was only a squirrel, darting up a tree trunk. Caitlin felt a wave of frustration wash over her. "This isn't funny," she shouted, her voice echoing through the park. "Where are you?" "Caitlin, calm down," Paige said gently, placing a hand on her shoulder. "We'll find him. He can't be far." Caitlin took a deep breath, trying to rein in her panic. "You're right. He's just hiding. But deep down, a nagging doubt gnawed at her. What if he wasn't? They continued their search, calling out his name, but the park remained eerily quiet. The sun had fully set now, and the shadows deepened, wrapping around them like a shroud. Caitlin felt a sense of dread creeping in, a feeling that something was very wrong. "Let's split up again," Mary-Kate suggested, her voice barely above a whisper. "We can cover more ground." Caitlin hesitated, the thought of being alone in the dark sending a shiver down her spine. "Are you sure? What if he needs us?" Chapter 6. The declaration of Brad's death. Where could he possibly be? Mary-Kate asked, her voice trembling slightly as she glanced toward the window, half expecting to see Brad's familiar figure bounding toward them. "I don't know," Caitlin replied, her brow furrowed. "He was just hiding, right? He can't be that far." Ashley, biting her lip, shook her head. "What if he got stuck somewhere? Or what if he fell asleep?" Paige, who had been pacing the room, stopped abruptly, her eyes wide. "What if he's hurt? We should call someone." Caitlin, trying to lighten the mood, took a deep breath and said, Okay, everyone calm down. We have to pronounce Brad dead." The words tumbled out before she could stop them, and the nervous giggles that followed felt like a release valve on the mounting pressure. "Dead," Liv echoed, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "How do we even do that?" "Simple," Caitlin declared, her mind racing with the absurdity of the situation. "We'll hold a mock funeral. You know, like in the movies. We can make a coffin out of pillows." The girls exchanged glances, and soon, the tension in the room began to dissolve into laughter. They rushed to gather pillows from the couch and the armchairs, stacking them haphazardly in the center of the living room. The atmosphere shifted from concern to hilarity as they arranged the makeshift coffin, draping a blanket over it like a shroud. "Now we need a eulogy," Ashley said, her voice taking on a dramatic tone. "Who wants to go first?" "I'll do it," Paige exclaimed, stepping forward with a mock-serious expression. "Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to mourn the loss of our dear friend Brad, who was taken from us too soon in a game of hide-and-seek." She paused for effect, and the girls erupted into giggles. Wait, Caitlin interrupted, raising her hand. "We need to make it more dramatic. Let's pretend he was a hero, lost in battle." "Right," Liv chimed in, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "He bravely fought against the forces of boredom and was ultimately defeated by the couch cushions." The laughter echoed through the room, but beneath it, a thread of unease lingered. Caitlin couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Brad had always been the life of their gatherings, his absence felt like a missing puzzle piece. As the girls continued their playful banter, Caitlin's mind wandered back to the last time she had seen him, his mischievous grin as he slipped away to hide. Okay, let's get serious for a second," Mary-Kate said, her laughter subsiding. "What if he really is stuck somewhere? We should check the backyard again." Caitlin's heart raced at the thought. "You're right. Let's split up and look for him. We can't just leave him dead." The word hung in the air, a stark reminder of their earlier joke. The girls nodded, their playful spirits dampened by a renewed sense of urgency. They rushed outside, the cool evening air wrapping around them like a shroud. The backyard, once a vibrant playground, now felt ominous under the dimming light. Shadows stretched across the grass, and the rustling leaves whispered secrets that sent shivers down Caitlin's spine. "Brad," Caitlin called, her voice echoing into the stillness. "Where are you?" Silence answered her, thick and heavy. The girls fanned out, searching behind bushes and under the swing set, their hearts pounding in their chests. Caitlin's mind raced with possibilities. What if he had really gotten hurt? What if he was in trouble? "Caitlin," Liv's voice broke through her thoughts, and Caitlin turned to see her friend crouched near the old oak tree, her face pale. I think I found him. Caitlin's heart dropped as she rushed over, her stomach twisting in knots. The sight that greeted her was both a relief and a shock. There, sprawled out on the ground, was Brad, his arms thrown wide as if he had fallen from the sky. "Brad!" Caitlin shouted, rushing to his side. "Are you okay?" He stirred, blinking up at her with a dazed expression. "What happened?" he mumbled, his voice thick with confusion. "You've been missing for ages. We thought you were." Caitlin's voice faltered, the weight of her earlier joke crashing down on her. "We thought you were dead." Brad chuckled weakly, pushing himself up on his elbows. "Dead? Nah, I just found the perfect hiding spot and fell asleep." He rubbed his eyes, the remnants of slumber still clinging to him. The girls erupted into a mix of laughter and relief, the tension that had gripped them moments before dissipating like morning fog. Caitlin felt a wave of warmth wash over her, the worry melting away as she helped Brad to his feet. "Seriously, you scared us," Mary-Kate exclaimed, playfully shoving him. "You can't just disappear like that." "I didn't mean to," Brad said, a sheepish grin spreading across his face. "I thought I'd be clever and hide for a bit longer. Guess I got a little too comfortable." Caitlin rolled her eyes, but her heart swelled with affection. "Next time, just let us know you're okay. We were about to hold a funeral for you." "Yeah, I heard," he replied, a teasing glint in his eyes. "I'm flattered you'd go to such lengths for me." As they made their way back to the house, the atmosphere shifted once more, laughter bubbling up as they recounted their wild imaginings of Brad's funeral. Yet, beneath the surface, Caitlin felt a flicker of something deeper. A connection that had always been there but now felt charged with unspoken words. Once inside, the girls settled back into the living room, the remnants of their mock funeral still scattered about. Caitlin caught Brad's eye, and for a moment, the world around them faded. She could see the warmth in his gaze, the way his lips curled into a smile that made her heart race. "Hey, Caitlin," he said, breaking the spell. "Thanks for worrying about me. It means a lot." "Of course," she replied, her voice soft. "You're our friend. We wouldn't want anything to happen to you." The moment lingered. Chapter 7. The funeral for Brad. As they gathered around the makeshift pillow coffin in the living room, the atmosphere was charged with a mix of nostalgia and an odd sense of relief. The girls had decided to hold a mock funeral for their friend, a tribute to the boy who had brought so much laughter into their lives. Caitlin looked around at her friends. Mary-Kate and Ashley, their faces flushed with excitement, Paige with her wild curls bouncing as she tried to suppress her giggles, and Liv, who was biting her lip to keep from bursting into laughter. "Okay, who wants to go first?" Caitlin asked, her voice a blend of mischief and sincerity. The pillow coffin, a haphazard arrangement of cushions and blankets, sat in the center of the room, adorned with a hastily drawn gravestone made from a piece of cardboard. "I'll go," Mary-Kate exclaimed, stepping forward with a dramatic flair. She cleared her throat, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "We are gathered here today to mourn the loss of our dear friend Brad, who was tragically lost in the depths of Caitlin's closet." The girls erupted into laughter, the tension of the day melting away. "Remember when he thought he could fit into the tiny space behind the couch?" Ashley chimed in, her voice rising with excitement. "He got stuck for like 10 minutes. We thought we'd have to call the fire department." Caitlin leaned against the wall, her heart swelling with affection for her friends. They were weaving a tapestry of memories, each thread vibrant with laughter and love. "Brad, the boy who could never resist a challenge," Paige added, her eyes glistening with mirth. "He once tried to climb the tree in my backyard to impress me, and he ended up stuck on a branch, yelling for help. I thought I'd die laughing." "Let's not forget his infamous dance moves," Liv said, her voice dripping with playful sarcasm. "I mean, who could forget the time he tried to breakdance at the school talent show and ended up face-planting. The room filled with laughter again, the echoes of their shared memories creating a warm cocoon around them. Caitlin felt a pang of sadness mixed with joy. Brad was not truly gone, but the mock funeral felt like a celebration of his spirit. Okay, I think it is time for the eulogy, Caitlin said, trying to regain some semblance of seriousness. We need to honor him properly. The girls nodded, their laughter subsiding into a more reflective mood. They huddled closer, their heads bent together as they brainstormed. How about we write a eulogy that captures his essence? Caitlin suggested, her heart racing with the thrill of creativity. Let's make it funny, Ashley insisted, her eyes sparkling with mischief. He wouldn't want us to be sad. With that, they began to craft a eulogy that was equal parts heartfelt and hilarious. Each girl contributed, their voices overlapping as they built a narrative that painted Brad as a hero of their childhood adventures. Brad, the brave knight who fought valiantly against the evil forces of boredom, Caitlin began, her voice rising with enthusiasm. He was always ready to embark on a quest, whether it was to find the last cookie in the jar or to conquer the tallest tree in the park. Who could forget his legendary battle with the sprinkler system? Mary Kate added, her laughter bubbling over. He thought he could dodge the water, but it turned into a full-on water fight. And he always had the best ideas for games, Paige chimed in. Even if they were completely ridiculous. As they continued, the eulogy transformed into a hilarious tribute, filled with exaggerated tales of Brad's adventures and the mischief he had brought into their lives. The girls took turns reading it aloud, their voices rising and falling with laughter, the room alive with their shared joy. Brad, you will be missed, not just for your questionable dance moves, but for your ability to turn the mundane into the extraordinary, Caitlin concluded, her voice thick with emotion. You were the spark that ignited our imaginations, and we promise to keep your spirit alive in our hearts. With that, they all leaned in, placing their hands on the pillow coffin as if to offer their final goodbyes. The laughter faded into a comfortable silence, the weight of their memories settling around them like a warm embrace. Okay, now we need to do something to send him off properly, Liv said, her eyes twinkling with mischief. How about a song? A song, Caitlin echoed, her brow furrowing in confusion. Yes, we can sing a silly song in his honor. Liv insisted, her enthusiasm infectious. The girls exchanged glances, and then, as if on cue, they burst into a rendition of The Lion Sleeps Tonight, their voices harmonizing in a cacophony of laughter and off-key notes. They danced around the living room, their spirits soaring as they celebrated their friend in the most ridiculous way possible. As the song came to an end, they collapsed onto the floor, breathless and giggling. Caitlin looked around at her friends, her heart swelling with gratitude. In that moment, she realized that even though Brad was not physically present, his spirit was woven into the fabric of their friendship. Okay, I think we've done enough for today, Caitlin said, wiping tears of laughter from her eyes. But we should probably check on Brad. He's been gone for a while. The girls nodded, their laughter fading into a sense of purpose. They stood up, brushing off the remnants of their playful funeral, and headed toward the door. As they stepped outside, the cool evening air greeted them, a gentle breeze rustling the leaves of the trees. Caitlin felt a shiver run down her spine, an inexplicable sense of foreboding creeping in. Do you think he's okay? Paige asked, her voice tinged with concern. Of course he is, Caitlin replied, trying to sound more confident than she felt. He's probably just messing with us. But as they approached the closet where Brad had hidden, a knot of anxiety twisted in Caitlin's stomach. The door was slightly ajar, and the shadows inside seemed to loom larger than life. Brad, Caitlin called, her voice wavering. Chapter 8 The surprise appearance. As the girls gathered their things, The atmosphere was still charged with the remnants of their playful antics. Caitlin glanced at her friends. Mary-Kate and Ashley, always in sync with each other, their laughter like music. Paige, who had a knack for turning every moment into a story, and Liv, whose bright smile could light up even the gloomiest days. They were a tapestry of personalities, each thread vibrant and essential. "Okay, who's ready for some ice cream?" Caitlin suggested, her voice bubbling with excitement. The thought of creamy vanilla topped with sprinkles was enough to draw them away from the remnants of their mock funeral. "I am, but only if I get the biggest scoop," Ashley chimed in, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "Only if you promise not to eat it too fast this time," Mary-Kate teased, nudging her sister playfully. As they made their way to the kitchen, the sound of their laughter filled the house, echoing off the walls like a sweet melody. Caitlin opened the freezer, the cold air rushing out to greet her, and she pulled out the tub of ice cream, the familiar scent of vanilla wafting through the air. She scooped generous portions into bowls, the clinking of spoons creating a rhythmic backdrop to their chatter. "Do you think Brad is still hiding?" Paige asked, her brow furrowing slightly as she glanced toward the living room, where the pillow coffin still sat, a reminder of their earlier antics. "Probably plotting his next move," Caitlin replied, a grin spreading across her face. "He's probably laughing at us right now." Just as she said this, a soft glow filled the room, casting an ethereal light that made the girls pause mid-laughter. They turned, eyes wide, as the glow intensified, illuminating the living room in a surreal haze. Caitlin's heart raced, a mix of excitement and confusion swirling within her. What's happening?" Liv whispered, her voice barely above a breath. Before anyone could respond, a figure floated down from above, a playful grin plastered across his face. It was Brad, his hair tousled and his eyes sparkling with mischief. "I was hiding in heaven," he exclaimed, his voice echoing with a playful lilt. The girls erupted in laughter, their worries forgotten in an instant. "You scared us half to death," Caitlin managed between giggles, her heart still racing from the surprise. Brad landed gracefully, his feet touching the ground with a soft thud. "I couldn't resist. You all looked so serious with your little funeral," he said, his grin widening as he took in their expressions of disbelief and amusement. "You jerk," Mary-Kate exclaimed, playfully shoving him. "We thought we lost you." "Yeah, I was about to call the authorities," Paige added, her laughter bubbling over. Brad feigned a look of shock, placing a hand over his heart. "And ruin my grand entrance? Never." He turned to Caitlin, his eyes sparkling with mischief. "You should have seen your faces. Priceless." Caitlin couldn't help but roll her eyes, though a smile tugged at her lips. "You're impossible, you know that." "Impossible and proud," he declared, puffing out his chest in mock bravado. As the laughter subsided, Caitlin felt a warmth spread through her, a sense of relief that their fun had returned. Yet, beneath the surface, a flicker of something else stirred, a tension that had been building since the day began. She glanced at Brad, who was now animatedly recounting his adventures, while hiding, his gestures exaggerated and his voice booming. The way he commanded the room, the way his laughter echoed, it was infectious, yet Caitlin felt a strange pull in her chest. "Okay, Mr. Heaven, what's next?" Ashley asked, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Brad paused, a thoughtful expression crossing his face. "How about a game of truth or dare? I promise to keep it interesting." The girls exchanged glances, a mix of excitement and apprehension swirling in the air. Truth or Dare had always been a game of revelations, a chance to peel back the layers of their friendships. Caitlin felt a flutter of nerves at the thought, but she pushed it aside. This was supposed to be fun. "All right, I'm in," Caitlin declared, her voice steady despite the fluttering in her stomach. "Me too," Liv chimed in, her enthusiasm infectious. As they settled back onto the picnic blanket, the atmosphere shifted, the air thick with anticipation. Brad sat across from Caitlin, his eyes glinting with mischief. "Ladies first," he said, gesturing dramatically. Caitlin took a deep breath, her heart racing. "Okay, I'll start with a truth. Brad, what's the most embarrassing thing you've ever done?" Brad leaned back, a thoughtful expression crossing his face. That's a tough one. I'd say it was when I tripped in front of the entire school during the talent show. I was trying to impress everyone with my dance moves, and instead, I ended up face first on the stage." The girls erupted in laughter, and Caitlin felt a warmth spread through her. "I remember that. You were so red." "Yeah, I thought I'd never live it down," he admitted, a sheepish grin on his face. "Okay, my turn," Liv said, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "Caitlin, truth or dare?" Caitlin hesitated, the flutter in her stomach returning. Truth." Liv leaned in, her voice conspiratorial. "What's one thing you've never told anyone about your crush?" Caitlin's heart raced, and she felt the heat rise to her cheeks. She glanced at Brad, who was watching her intently, a hint of curiosity in his eyes. "Well," she began, her voice steady despite the nerves, "I've always thought that my crush was someone who would never notice me." The room fell silent, the weight of her words hanging in the air. Caitlin's heart pounded in her chest as she realized the implications of her confession. She had never shared her feelings with anyone, and now, the truth lay bare before her friends. Brad's expression shifted, a flicker of surprise crossing his face. "Who is it?" he asked, his voice low. Caitlin swallowed hard, her mind racing. She could feel the weight of their gazes on her. Chapter 9. The aftermath of the prank. Brad's grand reveal had sent waves of laughter crashing through the room, washing away the worry that had briefly clouded the girls' faces. As they had gathered around the makeshift pillow coffin, the tension had transformed into a celebration of friendship, creativity, and the sheer delight of being young and carefree. But as the laughter faded, a new undercurrent began to weave its way through the group, a subtle tension that hinted at unspoken feelings and unresolved conflicts. Caitlin leaned back against the cool grass, her heart still racing from the thrill of the prank. She glanced at Brad, who was now sitting cross-legged on the blanket, a satisfied grin plastered across his face. "You really had us worried there for a second," she said, her tone playful yet edged with sincerity. Brad shrugged, his eyes sparkling with mischief. "What can I say? I'm a master of suspense." Mary-Kate and Ashley exchanged glances, their twin telepathy in full effect. "You're lucky we didn't call the cops," Ashley teased, nudging Brad with her elbow. "Or start a search party," Paige chimed in, her laughter bubbling up again. "I was about to grab a flashlight and search the neighborhood." Liv, who had been munching on a handful of gummy bears, piped up, "I think we should have a real funeral for your prank, Brad. You scared us half to death." The group erupted into laughter once more, but Caitlin couldn't shake the feeling that something deeper was simmering beneath the surface. She watched as Brad's laughter faded slightly, his gaze drifting away from the group, lost in thought. "Hey, what's up?" Caitlin asked, her voice softer now, cutting through the laughter. Brad snapped back to attention, his grin returning, but Caitlin noticed the flicker of something else in his eyes, an uncertainty that didn't quite match his playful demeanor. "Nothing, just thinking about how I could have made it even better," he replied, his tone light but his eyes betraying a hint of seriousness. Caitlin raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "Better? You mean you were planning to scare us even more?" "Maybe," he said, a smirk creeping back onto his face. "But I think I'll save that for next time." The group continued to chat and snack, but Caitlin's mind was elsewhere. She couldn't help but feel a strange mix of admiration and concern for Brad. His pranks were legendary, but there was something about this one that felt different. More personal, more revealing. As the evening wore on, the stars began to twinkle above them, casting a soft glow over the backyard. The laughter faded into a comfortable silence, and Caitlin found herself stealing glances at Brad, who was now engaged in a deep conversation with Liv. The way he leaned in, his eyes bright with enthusiasm, made Caitlin's heart flutter unexpectedly. "Caitlin, are you even listening?" Mary Kate's voice broke through her thoughts, pulling her back to the present. Yeah, totally," Caitlin replied, forcing a smile. "Right. So, what do you think? Should we plan another game night next week?" Ashley asked, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "Definitely. But maybe we should keep the pranks to a minimum," Caitlin suggested, shooting a pointed look at Brad. "Hey, no promises." Brad laughed, but Caitlin could see the glimmer of understanding in his eyes. As the group began to pack up the remnants of their gathering, Caitlin felt a strange sense of anticipation building within her. The night had been filled with laughter, but there was an undercurrent of something more, something that felt like a secret waiting to be uncovered. "Let's take a picture before we go," Paige exclaimed, pulling out her phone. The group huddled together, arms slung around each other's shoulders, laughter bubbling up once more as they posed. Caitlin felt the warmth of friendship enveloping her, but as the camera clicked, she couldn't shake the feeling that this moment was a turning point. "Okay, one more," Paige said, adjusting the angle. "Say, prankster, prankster." They all shouted, and the sound echoed into the night, a chorus of youthful exuberance. As they dispersed, Caitlin lingered behind, watching as Brad helped Liv gather her things. The way he leaned in close to her, the easy laughter they shared, sent a pang of something unfamiliar through Caitlin's chest. "Hey, Caitlin," Brad called, breaking her reverie. "You coming?" "Yeah, just a second," she replied, forcing a smile as she joined them. As they walked back toward the house, Caitlin felt the weight of unspoken words hanging in the air. The night had been filled with laughter, but beneath it all, she sensed a shift, a change in dynamics that could alter their friendship forever. "Thanks for tonight, Caitlin. It was epic," Brad said, his voice sincere as they reached the porch. "Yeah, it was fun," Caitlin replied, her heart racing as she met his gaze. "But maybe next time, you could tone down the theatrics a bit." Brad chuckled, but there was a seriousness in his eyes. "I'll think about it, but you know me, I can't resist a good prank." Caitlin nodded, her heart pounding. "Just don't scare us like that again, okay? Promise," he said, a hint of vulnerability creeping into his voice. As the group said their goodbyes, Caitlin lingered for a moment longer, watching as Brad walked away with Liv, their laughter fading into the night. A knot of uncertainty twisted in her stomach, and she couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of something complicated. The next day, Caitlin found herself replaying the events of the night in her mind. She sat at her kitchen table, the sunlight streaming through the window, illuminating the remnants of breakfast. Her phone buzzed, breaking her thoughts, and she glanced down to see a message from Brad. "Hey, still thinking about last night? You really think I should tone it down?" Caitlin's heart raced as she typed her response, her fingers hovering over the screen. "Not completely. Just maybe save the big reveals for another time." She hit send, her mind racing with possibilities. What if Brad's pranks were a way of expressing something deeper? What if he was trying to show her that he cared? The phone buzzed again. Chapter 10. The farewell and lessons learned. As the last echoes of laughter faded into the warm night air, Caitlin leaned back against the soft cushions of her couch, her heart still racing from the evening's antics. The sun had dipped below the horizon, leaving a canvas of deep indigo dotted with the first stars of the night. The remnants of their playful chaos lay scattered around the living room, a half-eaten bowl of popcorn, the remnants of their makeshift pillow coffin, and the game pieces from their earlier battles. It had been a night filled with laughter, friendship, and a touch of mischief, but now, as the clock ticked closer to midnight, a bittersweet feeling settled in. "Can you believe how worried we got?" Mary-Kate said, her voice still tinged with amusement as she tossed a stray popcorn kernel into the air, catching it in her mouth. "I mean, who knew Brad could pull off such an epic prank?" "Right," Ashley chimed in, her eyes sparkling with mirth. "I thought we were going to have to send out a search party." Caitlin smiled, but her gaze drifted to the window, where the last remnants of daylight had surrendered to the night. "It was all in good fun, but I'm glad he's okay. I don't think I could handle losing my best friend to a game of hide and seek." "Hey, we're all here, and that's what matters," Liv said, her voice softening as she reached for Caitlin's hand. "We've made some amazing memories tonight." "Yeah, and we'll make more," Brad added, his grin infectious as he plopped down beside Caitlin, his earlier prank forgotten. "I promise to keep my hiding spots less heavenly next time." The group erupted into laughter again, but Caitlin felt a twinge of something deeper. The night had been a celebration of their friendship, yet she sensed an undercurrent of change. They were growing up, and with that came the inevitable shifts in their lives. As much as she wanted to hold on to these moments forever, she knew that time was relentless. "Okay, everyone, it is getting late," Caitlin said, her voice steady despite the fluttering in her stomach. "We should probably start heading home." The mood shifted slightly, a collective sigh escaping their lips as they began to gather their things. The warmth of the evening lingered, but the reality of their separate lives loomed ahead. Each of them had their own paths to follow, and as they stood in the living room, the weight of unspoken words hung in the air. "I'll walk you guys out," Caitlin offered, her heart heavy with the thought of saying goodbye. They filed out of the house, the cool night air wrapping around them like a comforting blanket. The stars twinkled above, a silent witness to their friendship, and Caitlin felt a pang of nostalgia wash over her. As they reached the front porch, Brad lingered behind, his expression shifting from playful to serious. "Hey, Caitlin," he said, his voice low. "Can we talk for a second?" Caitlin's heart raced. "Sure, what's up?" The others continued down the path, their laughter fading into the distance as Brad stepped closer, the porch light casting a soft glow on his face. "I just wanted to say tonight was really special. I know we joke around a lot, but I really appreciate you guys. You make everything better." Caitlin's breath caught in her throat. "I feel the same way, Brad. You're like the glue that holds us all together." He chuckled softly, but there was a seriousness in his eyes that made her pulse quicken. "I've been thinking a lot lately about how we're all going to be heading off to different schools next year. It's kind of scary, you know." "Yeah, it is," Caitlin admitted, her heart sinking at the thought. "But we'll always have these memories, right?" "Of course," he said, his gaze unwavering. "But I want to make sure we don't lose touch. I don't want to be just a memory." Caitlin felt a warmth spread through her chest, a mix of affection and something deeper. "We won't, I promise. We'll make time for each other, no matter what." Brad nodded, but there was a flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. I don't want to regret not saying things while we still can." "What do you mean?" Caitlin asked, her curiosity piqued. He hesitated, his brow furrowing as he searched for the right words. "I mean, I care about you, Caitlin. More than just as a friend. I've felt this way for a while, but I didn't know how to say it." Caitlin's heart raced, a whirlwind of emotions crashing over her. She had sensed something between them, a spark that had been growing, but hearing him say it out loud sent her thoughts spiraling. "Brad, Before she could finish, the sound of footsteps interrupted them. The others were returning, their voices bright and cheerful, oblivious to the tension that had just filled the air. Caitlin's heart sank as she realized they would have to put this conversation on hold. "Hey, what's taking you two so long?" Paige called out, her voice teasing. "Are you planning a secret escape?" Caitlin shot Brad a look, a silent promise that they would talk later. He smiled, though the uncertainty lingered in his eyes. "Just discussing strategy for our next game," he replied, his tone light. As they walked back down the path, Caitlin felt a mix of relief and disappointment. The moment had slipped away, but the weight of Brad's confession hung in the air, a promise of something more that lingered just out of reach. Once they reached the street, the group began to disperse, each friend heading in a different direction. Caitlin hugged each of them tightly, her heart swelling with gratitude for the bond they shared. "Don't forget to text me when you get home," she called out, her voice bright despite the turmoil inside her. "Of course," Liv replied, her smile wide. "We'll plan another get-together soon." As the last of her friends disappeared into the night, Caitlin turned back to her house, the door creaking softly as she stepped inside. The familiar scent of her home enveloped her, but it felt different now, tinged with the bittersweet realization that change was coming. She sank onto the couch, her mind racing with thoughts of Brad and the unspoken words that hung between them. What if they never had the chance to finish that conversation? What if their friendship changed forever? The uncertainty gnawed at her, but deep down, she knew that they would find a way to navigate whatever came next. The night stretched on, and Caitlin found herself staring out the window, the stars twinkling like distant dreams. She felt a surge of determination rise within her. They had shared so many memories, and she was not ready to let go of any of them yet. Chapter 1 The gathering at Caitlin's house in the fading